This is the End Zone. Let's move the chains. Today we're talking about the XFL current quarterback room situations. Now, this is all depending on whether or not players are going to return to their respective teams. I think that they will. I think that's the right move by the XFL. If they already had contract with that certain team, let them go back. Let the teams basically start right back off where they were. So with that being said, I don't want to waste your time here. Let's go over each team and their specific quarterback situation and kind of what they have going for the future and maybe if they need some more guys in their quarterback rooms. Starting off with the Seattle Dragons. By week 5, the Seattle Dragons were on a 3-game losing streak and averaged only 17.4 points per game. Their lone win came against the Vipers in week 2 before Tampa found its stride offensively. By the end of the season, BJ Daniels took the reins after Brandon Silvers went down in week 4. In one game with BJ Daniels, the Dragons scored a season high of 23 points at the Roughnecks, coming up short at the end after being robbed by the officials' clock management. The main problem for this offense was the inability to stretch the field vertically in the passing game. Silvers only completed 53% of his passes and threw for 6 touchdowns and 4 picks. Daniels brought his mobile skills to the table late in the season versus Houston and had a total of 3 touchdowns. Both QBs struggled through the air despite having Alonzo Moore, Keenan Reynolds, and Austin Proehl at wide receiver. In my opinion, though, Daniels gave this offense another dimension with his mobility, and he was under helm when the Dragons scored their season high offensively. The other options are Justin Holman and Keenan Reynolds, but I don't see them as realistic options for that starting role. Second up, we have the New York Guardians. Matt McGloin started the season as the guy for New York, but a couple of bad games and a national TV meltdown later, he found himself as the third-string quarterback on that roster. He also did suffer an injury at St. Louis, but by that time, it looked like it was the right decision to move on to Luis Perez as the starter. While Perez doesn't flash off the screen as a guy with insane intangibles or a rocket arm, he does have a great understanding of the offense, and he will win you games. We saw that with the Iron, and we saw that late in the season with the New York Guardians. He finished the season with 418 yards, a 61% completion percentage, 3 passing touchdowns, and 1 interception. So yeah, he gets the job done. He was actually on a 2-game win streak as the season came to an end. Marquise Williams, a guy who I've loved ever since his days at UNC, also saw playing time, but was used as a mobile threat in the red zone, not really as a passer. While I would love to see him play, he really needs to work on his accuracy. He missed high on his throws, which is kind of what we saw with the San Antonio Commanders in the AAF and in the XFL. Honestly, though, if he can fix those issues, he could be the guy who could join another team like the Battlehawks or the Roughnecks, who need to fill the hole of a mobile quarterback. As far as returning quarterbacks, the LA Wildcats are in the best position with starting quarterback Josh Johnson. Johnson finished the season with 1,076 passing yards and came in late because of preseason injuries. He can stretch the field, use his legs to escape the pocket, or stretch out a play, and has an incredible IQ. He's been in the NFL for years and is a leader. Players in the XFL look up to him because he's been where they want to go. He has the knowledge they want, and you could tell that the Wildcats believed in him and themselves because they were one of the teams that was trending upwards by week 5 of the XFL season. The other signal callers on this roster are Chad Kanoff and Jalen McClendon. Kanoff started in week 1 and never found much success. McClendon also saw time in week 1 as well, but he also got to play some cleanup games in the late roles as the season went on. At number 4, we have an interesting one, the DC Defenders. The story of this offense was Cardell and Hyde. Jones started off the season with talks of being the league's MVP, but that quickly wore off. If you watched his game late in the season versus the Vipers, you could tell he had zero confidence and he lost all of his mojo. In the last 3 games Jones saw playing time, he threw 6 interceptions and 0 touchdowns. Then Tyree Jackson stepped up to the plate as the starter in week 5, and when all hope was lost for the Defenders, DC pulled off a defensive upset hosting the St. Louis Battlehawks. Jackson has a cannon and surprising mobility for his large frame, but didn't really show anything promising for the future of the DC offense. Against St. Louis, he went 9 for 14, for a total of 39 yards and a touchdown. He averaged just 2.8 yards per attempt, with his longest pass logged in at 9 yards. CJ Collins was the other quarterback on the roster, but in DC, we'll have an open competition because the struggles were real for this offense. Houston Roughnecks, they lose the biggest player. Losing PJ Walker, the XFL's MVP, is a huge blow for Houston. There's no way around it. Behind Walker was Connor Cook, though, a longtime college football star who could fill in at that quarterback position, but I wouldn't go as far as to say as he could do it as well as PJ Walker did it. If these teams are exploring trades, I would look for Houston to try and trade to get a mobile quarterback, possibly like Quentin Flowers or maybe Marquise Williams, to come in as a competition for that starting role. Number 6, the St. Louis Battlehawks. Speaking of teams that lose a starting quarterback, St. Louis has to replace Jordan Ta'amu. I also think that this is a team who could trade for a guy like Quentin Flowers because they would want a mobile quarterback to run that offense. With that being said, both Taylor Heineke and Nick Fitzgerald held backup roles with St. Louis, and they would have some big shoes to fill. Fitzgerald seems like the best guy in my opinion because of his play style being more mobile, but there's still a lot to like about former Old Dominion quarterback Taylor Heineke. We'll have to see what goes on with this offense and if they decide to trade. And number 7, Tampa Bay, the Vipers. One of the best part for me about the XFL season was watching Taylor Cornelius grow in the starting role with the Vipers. Cornelius finished 4th in passing with 858 yards, 4 touchdowns, and yes, 6 interceptions, but he was really improving, and he was actually a sneaky runner. I really enjoyed watching Cornelius play. No Vipers fans wanted him on the field in the beginning of the season because they favored Quentin Flowers, and I don't blame him. Flowers is a more exciting quarterback, but Cornelius really showed off in his short run. Flowers was playing well, but he had to leave the team shortly for some personal reasons. He was set to return, but by the season ended, there was really nothing much he could do about that. The Vipers' offense emerged by week 5 as a force to be reckoned with, mainly because of Devion Smith and Jacquez Patrick, but Cornelius really meshed with the offense by week 5 shootout loss to LA. They also have the option of Aaron Murray, but watching Aaron Murray in the AAF and now the XFL, it's clear that Cornelius and Flowers are both better options. Finally, we have the Dallas Renegades. Listen, I don't think that Landry Jones will return. He sustained multiple injuries with Dallas, and he did not mesh well with Hal Mumme and that air raid offense. Mumme wanted to move fast, and Jones was not ready physically. Jones's strength is his wisdom and IQ, not his athletic ability. We heard the hot mics, and you could tell that things were just not going with this offense. Mumme really wanted to hurry it up. Jones wanted to slow it down. Philip Nelson filled in but struggled in week 4 versus the Guardians when they lost 30-12. The Renegades put up some good passing numbers but turned the ball over way too much and failed to score in the red zone. I actually felt that they should have leaned on their run game a little bit more. It was electric. Brogan Roback is also on the roster but never saw substantial playing time. Eric Dungy was also on the roster but had to leave the team for personal reasons. He said he would come back. I think that Dungy, had he not left the team for personal reasons, would have had substantial playing time because, he was in a high-octane offense at Syracuse. I think that he could handle the Renegades style. So yeah, guys, that's a quick overlook of the current XFL quarterback rooms. I'd love to know your thoughts down below and who you think has the best quarterback room. Thanks for watching the End Zone. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we can move the chains.